You can call it destiny, addicted to this energy.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to a brand new episode of VR 365. It is episode 382. 382 episodes. And it's been some time, honestly, since we've had a VR 365 episode. It has been a minute, and it's a weird situation. I got to admit that this episode today is it's more like a public service announcement. I just wanted to talk about the fact that VR game rankings, I'm going to be shutting VR game rankings down. And I have a very limited window in which to possibly sell VR game rankings to someone else. Somebody else could potentially acquire VR game rankings. They could continue to run VR game rankings. They could make it something completely different. They could just simply use a domain to automatically kick people to wherever their website is and just use the existing traffic or whatever, or just add the existing traffic of hardcore VR nut jobs. And there's some possibilities there. So I just wanted to do a public service announcement about that because I've got a very limited amount of time. In fact, mere days. I've got to make a major decision. Basically, this Thursday, I think. This Thursday is basically the deadline on whether I'm going to keep my hosting for another year. And right now, I'm not planning on doing it. But if somebody acquires it, wants to take it over, then I definitely would do that. So I wanted to talk about that for a minute. But I'm also going to go ahead and do like a regular actual show and cover a lot of other various topics. But it will be freestyle. It will be freestyle. I don't actually have anything prepared. This was kind of an impromptu thing. I actually woke up today and I wasn't sure if there was going to be a Next Dimension podcast on MRTV. Did I have to get ready for an MRTV podcast for the Next Dimension podcast? And at a certain point today, I found out, no, there's no episode today, which is fine. It's a great opportunity to take a little bit of a break. But I thought, well, hey, if there's no Next Dimension episode, then I might as well do an episode. I could talk briefly about VR game rankings, the situation going on over there. And I can also talk about some of these different news stories and maybe some topics that, some things that I've been doing on the side, or some games I've been playing, or some thoughts I've been having. And then also, we've actually got a really huge topic today, ladies and gentlebots. And the really huge topic today is really about a NeoGAF thread that I thought was absolutely fascinating. Because here's the deal. Most of us are locked inside a VR gaming bubble. And we're on Twitter, we're on Reddit, we're in our various Discord communities, and we're in bubbles. We're straight up inside a bubble, and we're in a groupthink, and there isn't a lot of dissenting voice. There aren't a lot of voices that are contrarian in this space, and we just kind of, it's like preaching to the choir, pretty much everybody. We're in these bubbles, and I don't know that from inside a bubble you can have an accurate view of what's really going on. And there was a thread on NeoGAF. It's probably like more than a week old now. It might be a couple of weeks old. And it was basically about Sony. When Sony had announced the controllers and shown off the controllers for PlayStation VR 2, that was like, PSVR 2 is real, bro. Dealwithit.com. And so there were a lot of people on NeoGAF that were a little taken aback by the fact that Sony continues to invest into VR. And a lot of these people were like, why? Why is Sony continuing to do this? This makes no logical sense. What's going on here? So we're going to talk about that because honestly, the most interesting aspect of that topic is not the specific topic about why Sony is investing in VR, but it's really the haters, the anti-VR people that come in that thread, that came into that thread and dropped neutron bombs of varying degrees. And a lot of the points that some of these people were like, dude, VR is a dud. It's going nowhere. It's dead. Why are you guys still trying? You know, they had thought processes like this, right? The old VR is dead thing, right? But some of their points are actually freaking legitimate and stuff. And so I thought, would it be kind of interesting to maybe look at like, what are the problems with VR? What is holding back VR? You know, so do people still hate VR? Yeah, they do. Some people still do. And so we're going to talk about that as well. But let's go ahead and start things off with our first story of the day. And our first story of the day is, let me see, I'm going to switch over here to the Webinator. And yeah, so VR game rankings, man, you know what? So VR game rankings, I started VR game rankings back in April of 2017. It's not quite the 4-year anniversary. We're a couple of weeks short of the 4-year anniversary of VR game rankings. And I tell the same story every single time when I talk about VR game rankings. VR game rankings was an idea that I had at the time that made a hell of a lot of sense right at that particular time. And it was this idea that I had, and I always had thought that there would be additional people working on VR game rankings, that I would only be one of the people, that there might be 4 or 5, 6 people, I don't know, maybe 3 people that would be working on VR game rankings and banging away on VR game rankings, and I was just going to be one of them. And the idea was VR game rankings, the whole entire concept was all about celebrating the best games that we have right now, the best VR games that we have, and also celebrating the best VR experiences that we have as well. And then in addition to that, it's like hyping up the future, the most wanted, the stuff that we're really excited about. For example, if I go to the top 100 most wanted PC VR games, this is one of our more popular pages on the website that people return to just to check out what are the bangers that are coming up. And what we wanted to do originally with VR game rankings is, I mean, this was like pie in the sky, like it didn't really work out. VR game rankings has never lived up to my original idea of it at all. It's never even been close. But originally the idea was every single VR game that is available will have a mini review. Every single one will have a mini review, okay? And then if the game isn't available, but it's coming soon, it will have a preview. So every single VR game would have one of these pages, and it would have a mini review, or it'd be a preview of a coming soon game. And we would do that for all the greatest games, all the greatest experiences. And it would kind of be a love fest for what we currently have and a hype fest for what is coming up. And we try to keep track of like what the hottest stuff is. And one of the things we would do is like we would look at like the last 90 days. Let's see here. Last 90 days, 20 best Quest games, for example. We would take a look at like, you know, what are the best games that have come out most recently. So we'd have these various rankings, and like somebody could see a game and then they can click on it, and it would take them to the game profile page, which would talk more about the game. It'd have the trailer. It could take you to the publisher or the developer. It could take you to the store page, et cetera, et cetera. And, it, you know, this wasn't supposed to be like the world's greatest VR gaming website by any stretch of the imagination, but we were just going to try to make it a cool thing that people could use just to keep up on things. So anyway, bottom line, long story short, coming up on 4 years, and because it's almost the 4-year anniversary, there's these things that I have to renew like every single year. And one of the worst aspects of this whole VR game rankings thing is I started an LLC business here in California. Like if you scroll all the way down here, all the way to the bottom, it says, you know, 2021 VR game rankings LLC. That's actually not fake. We really actually have an LLC here in California, in the state of California. And that's actually the number one expense of this thing. Do you know, ladies and gentlemen, that if you're going to have a business in the state of California, it doesn't matter if this business makes $5 a month or $500,000 a month, you have to pay an annual tax. You have to pay your annual LLC tax. And your annual LLC tax is $800 in California. Now, there's other states where it's like $200. And that would have been a dramatic difference, because so VR Game Rankings, we're not making any money. And when you have to pay that $800 every year, plus there's the hosting I have to pay for every year, plus there's the email, the info at VR Game Rankings email that I have to pay for every year, plus there's the domain name and the privacy for the domain. And so we have these various expenses that we have to pay every year on VR Game Rankings. And the revenues that are coming in, it's worthless. It's completely worthless. Like, there's no real revenues coming in. A long time ago, I tried to get Google AdSense on here, where it would just be typical Google type ads would pop up every now and then. But we never did get that. And there was complications in trying to get Google AdSense. Like, you would apply for Google AdSense and it wouldn't be approved, and then you'd make changes and then it wouldn't be approved, and then you'd make more changes and it wouldn't be approved. And so if you look at the website, you will see these little Amazon ads in certain spots, like this best-selling CPUs, like video cards, Ryzen chips, and like Westworld, if you want to get some kind of Prime Video subscription or whatever. We would have these little Amazon things all over. And if you go to the various game profile pages, for example, let's see, something like Yuki coming from Arvory. You go to the various game profile pages and there would be like a little Amazon ad over here, Oculus Quest 2 Elite Strap. And so this is what's called the Amazon Associates Program. And for this website, it hasn't been worth anything. Like, there's almost no money coming in from that. It's just not even worth it. And so the bottom line is, I want to shut down my LLC. I do not want to have this LLC anymore. I want it to be ended. Guess what? I still have to pay $800 this year. But what I'm hoping for is I don't have to pay $800 next year. So if I shut everything down and really, truly shut it down and file all the necessary paperwork that I have to file and do all the little tax whatever stuff that I got to deal with, then that will actually shut down that LLC. That LLC will no longer exist. And next year, I won't have to pay that $800 annual tax. And that's huge. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, somebody could say, well, Anthony, it sounds like you're only paying about, $1,000 a year, maybe a little over $1,000 a year. And this is a labor of love. Why not keep doing it? It's a labor of love. And yeah, you're kind of right. But at the same time, it's like the money I'm spending. But then honestly, so this entire time I've been running VR Game Rankings, I've spent in the neighborhood of like $5,000, maybe almost $6,000 if you add up every tiny little thing, which includes like the freaking logo. Okay, this VR Game Rankings logo. I hired this firm to make me like 3 different logos. I paid way too much money for, total disaster after disaster. That's been my reality. You know what? Is the show still running? Because it's showing like some kind of thing over here in YouTube, like it's not receiving enough bandwidth. See, the problem is I've got 3 kids. I mean, I've got 3 kids. I've got 2 kids, and they're on like 28 different devices running all simultaneously. Somebody in chat, let me know if the show is still up and running. Like, do we have a show, or is the show dead? I believe the show is still going, so hopefully everything's fine. But anyways, so what was I saying here? So I've, over the 4-year period that this thing has been running, somewhere between $5 and $6 grand have been. Oh, it's lagging like crazy. Okay, sorry about this. Cost you 6 Gs to become famous. No, VR game rankings. Even if VR game rankings was like some unbelievable awesome thing, it would never make me famous. Like, I don't know how that would make me famous. Even if VR game rankings was like, this isn't about being famous. It was never about being famous. It was just at the time when I started it in 2017, April of 2017, you literally had to be like a freaking doctor. You had to be a sleuth. You know, you had to be a hardcore detective. You had to be a Sherlock Holmes to discover information about VR games, to find out what VR games were coming and what VR games were good. You had to like really go above and beyond the Call of Duty. And I was thinking, dude, there really needs to be a website that like breaks this stuff down really easily and really quickly. So like if somebody's a brand new person's like, bro, just bought an Oculus Rift, man, or I just got a Rift S. I just bought a brand new Rift S. I don't know anything about PC VR gaming. What's good, bro? Well, all you would have to do is send them right here, top 100 Oculus Rift games, and it would break it down. You see what games you like that are ranked higher up. Those games are better. But I can tell you, like, if you go through the entire top 100, bangers all the way through. I mean, you get into the 80s and there's bangers. Grit VR, Journey of the Gods, Mage's Tale, Hell Split Arena, you know, incredible bangers all the way through. And so this was designed, this is a great site, honestly, for like brand new people that are just getting aboard. They're just coming aboard. For example, just bought an Oculus Quest. Maybe check out the top 150 Oculus Quest games. You know, you can check out the top 150 Oculus Quest games. We haven't updated this super recently, but it does have all the biggest bangers on the Oculus Quest. And so that's how it was kind of designed. It wasn't really designed for like hardcore veterans, although those people can check out the most wanteds and stuff like that. And it was never designed for people to spend a lot of time here. It's designed for them to just come back and check it out, you know, at their leisure. Now, it's not the greatest website by any stretch of the imagination. I don't want to even try to pretend. No, this website's it's not that great, honestly. But in terms of like selling it, in terms of like trying to sell this, so if there's somebody out there that does want to buy it or is considering, you know, somebody that wants to have a web presence in VR, one thing that I think is kind of nice is the fact that if you did own VR game rankings, for example, if I did a search for best Rift games, okay, so let's just do a random Google search for best Rift games, and let's just look at the websites. Okay, Upload VR, first one. Pocket Lint, whatever the hell that is. Digital Trends, Oculus.com, Road to VR, and VR Game Rankings. Top 100 Oculus Rift games currently available. This is the first page. Now, I don't know if it's the first page for everybody else. Like if you're in Australia and you do a Google search for best Rift games, it might not be the first page. It might be the 5th page or something like that. But when I do it, it comes up as the first page. Now, let me change it to top. Let's try top Rift games. Okay, so we're going to change it up, try top Rift games. No change here with Upload and Pocket Lint. Congratulations to Pocket Lint. Road to VR, Digital Trends, Oculus, VR Game Rankings. Bam, still first page. Okay, let's try top Vive games. Let's try top Vive games. And this is just, you know, random Google searches where somebody might end up finding something. So if you go to the top Vive games, Pocket Lint, Ballin' Out of Control, Digital Trends, Tech Radar, Tom's Guide, Steam, Upload VR, Stuff TV, Wearable, VR Game Rankings at the very bottom of page 1 for top Vive games. Okay, so for those 3 different phrases, we show up on the top page. Now that's according to my browser search. Now here's a good one, Best Quest Games. Best Quest games. Like, wouldn't you love to be on page 1 for best Quest games? Because Quest is the hottest shit in town, right? I mean, Quest is the freaking baller extraordinaire. Wouldn't you want to be on page 1 for best Quest games? Well, we're not on page 1, unfortunately. Upload VR is, The Verge is, CNET, Oculus.com, Tom's Guide, Forbes, Tech Radar, Road to VR, Pocket Lint, Ballin' Again. But if you go to page 2, I believe we finally show up somewhere. Yeah, at the very bottom of page 2, top 100 Oculus Quest games currently available. I still think it's pretty nice to be on page 2 of a random Google search. So that's best Quest games. What if we did like top Quest games? Let's do top Quest games. So my thought was, like, if we could start showing up on some of this stuff, let me go to page 2 of top Quest games. Do we show up on page 2? Yeah, actually a little bit higher on, if you do the search for top Quest games, we're about midway, a little bit below midway of page 2 for that. What about like best PlayStation VR games? Let's try that one. Best PlayStation VR, best PSVR games. Best PSVR games. Why can I not say that? Okay, we don't quite make it on page 1. Dagnabbit. Did not make page 1. Do we make page 2? Oh, yeah, we're on page 2. Top 100 PlayStation VR games currently available. So what I'm trying to say here is, like, we do not absolutely awful when people are looking for the best VR games of a particular category. Chances are they might stumble on one of our rankings. And so we do get this random traffic from Google, and that was kind of the, that was the theory here of doing this, a website like this, is you can get this random traffic from Google, people searching for best games. So you can see best Rift games page 1, top Rift games page 1, top Vive games page 1, best Quest games page 2, top Quest games page 2, going down the line. All of those were page 1 or page 2. Now, of course, this does vary. Like, you could be in Zimbabwe and we might come up on page 3. I don't know how it's all going to work, but I did some random searches here in like a incognito browser window, and those were some of the results that came up for me when I did some of these searches. And then, here's a couple more. Like, I did best Valve Index games, we show up on page 2. Top Valve Index games, we show up on page 2. Best Oculus games, or page 3. Okay, so best VR games. Originally, this was my number one focus. I wanted eventually to show up on page 1 when somebody just types in best VR games. I wanted VR game rankings to be bam on page 1. That would be ideal. Unfortunately, we're page 4. Okay, and top VR games were page 6. But the curious thing about this is, if you look at all this stuff and then you look at some of the websites that are after us, we're actually ahead of some pretty big VR some pretty big VR websites that actually come way after us in some of these various searches, and so it doesn't really mean all that much in the grand scheme of things, but I do think it's not that bad, So we did actually achieve something. Like, people are actually finding this website and stuff like that. So anyway, basically, I'm going to go ahead and end the talk now on the VR game ranking subject. But I just wanted to say that if you have any interest in VR game rankings, the domain name, or the existing content, because there's actually a way to get all the existing content. So like every page that was made, like I've made over 1,000 game profile pages, like individual specific pages for games and VR experiences, over 1,000 of them. And they're there and they have SEO and they exist. And so somebody could potentially acquire all of this and just maintain it, or they can reroute everything, or they can acquire it and build it on a different platform from scratch, but have the domain and like reroute everything to the pages they want on their new platform. There's different things you can do, right? So I'm just doing my due diligence. Like, I figure I only got a couple of more days before I got to like end this thing out. And so I just wanted to get on here and talk about this just on the off chance somebody happens to see this and is like, oh my God, I really need to start a website. There's probably some VR YouTubers, and I've actually thought about this before. Imagine if imagine if like a whole bunch of VR YouTubers all owned VR game rankings. Like all the VR YouTubers that you know and love, like we all owned VR game rankings, and we all did like reviews of games on there, and like we all did articles on there, and we all had our own rankings on there, and we all had like a community. I always wanted to have a community set up on this website where somebody would sign in as a member, and when you first sign in as a member, it would ask you like which hardware do you have, and you'd click all these different boxes to select all your different hardware, all your different accessories, your video card, your CPU, the memory you got, the Quest mods that you have, your freaking deluxe audio. Like it would have all this stuff. So you'd be building like a profile of all your hardware, and then it would have these tiles of all these games. And you could be like, yeah, I have that game, bam, bam, bam. You're adding them to all your library, and you could quickly shuffle them around and make your own kind of order, so that we'd have like this community of VR people that would all be on there, and they would have their pages that would have like all the games they have, what they think is the shiznit, and then like their different hardware that they have and all of that. It would be a cool idea. I didn't have the wherewithal to like actually make all this shit happen. I was working towards that a number of years ago, and then I got called back to my job, was working crazy freaking overtime, was getting no money from this whatsoever. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm getting money from this, I can survive and don't need my day job. So it's a failed project. I completely failed. I freaking swung and I struck the F out. This is a failed project, ladies and gentlebots. There's nothing I can say about that. There was actually, in fact, honestly, you know who I need to thank for the idea to finally freaking give this shit up is Wizard Juan. Wizard Juan, who I interviewed one time, young dude, one time in chat. By young dude, I don't know, he's like maybe 20 or something, 19, 20, 22. One time in chat, he was talking about this thing. It was called the sunk cost fallacy. And that was the thing that freaking ruined me, man. It was the sunk cost fallacy. It's this idea, like 2 years ago, I thought about stopping VR game rankings. And then I was like, but I've invested 2 years. I've put in 2 years of time and effort. I can't just give it up, and then another year goes by. Oh, but I've invested 3 years. I can't give it up. I've invested 3 years. And now I've invested 4 years. And so you get into this thing where you don't want to stop something because you have so much invested in it. You're all in on something. You put all in. So if you back away now, you lose everything. It's a complete total loss, and it's not the money. The money is nothing. Like the $6,000, that is nothing. It's the hours. I just imagine all the hours I spent on VR Game Rankings website, and I think, oh my God, had I used those hours to learn piano or learn a language or just play VR games or just be a lazy mofo and watch freaking Amazon Prime and Netflix. I mean, the amount of hours, but I guess sometimes you have to throw some shit out there and see if anything happens. Nothing happened. It was a terrible idea. But I'm not saying VR game rankings is an awful idea for somebody else that knows what they're doing. They can probably take advantage of it, do way better with it, actually make some money from it. And so if you want to do that, hit me up. info@vrgamerankings.com. It's an email that I'm paying money for, that I need to close that one off as well, or somebody can take that or whatever. But I just wanted to let people know about that. Let me go ahead and check out chat really quick and see what folks are talking about. So Lars is saying, I hate to sign in, sorry. Yeah, well, it wouldn't require you to do that, but And yeah, so RG is saying, Ant, you got to put the time in. I bet considering the amount of time you dedicate in a day to VR that you're doing well. So how long have you been wrathing? So I'm looking at some comments in chat. They're talking about my internet. So I guess the internet is it's these damn kids. It's these goddamn kids. I need to tell everybody to get completely off the internet. 3D First Person says best VR games page 1 in my browser. Yeah, and Ray Pope says would be a shame with all the work invested to see it go. But that's the sunk cost fallacy. You got to ask yourself, are there any projects ever that have been a great project that somebody put ridiculous untold hours into, but they're just a complete failure? And the answer is, unfortunately, yes, there's projects like that. Those projects exist. So then the thing is, you got to determine, well, if that's the situation, is it better to just walk away? Look, am I going to think back on it and think, oh my God, what an effing disaster, what a waste of time? Sure, I am. That's human nature. You're going to look back on things like that. But problem is if the platform switches, SEO won't follow. Page rankings likely reset. Yeah, but you can before you switch, you can do these like redirections. So I'm not sure about that. I don't know about that. But yeah, anyways, it's just, it's one of those things. So that's VRGameRankings.com. It's sad, man. Imagine you invested thousands of hours into something and thousands of dollars, and it was just a complete and utter zilch zero. It does happen, and it does suck, but you move on.com. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into some up-to-date stories that are going on in the VR gaming world. And we'll switch back over here to Upload VR. And one thing that has been making some noise in the VR and AR game, because look, I like AR. And there is a lot of rumbling that is going on in the background about AR. AR is starting to generate a little bit of momentum, especially, with Apple getting involved in this area as well, and Facebook is getting involved in a much more serious effort, and we've got other companies as well. But let's go back to Microsoft, shall we? Because the thing about Microsoft, folks, is Microsoft, they were all in. Of all the companies in the world, there is no other company on planet Earth that was more all in on AR than Microsoft. Microsoft was all in on, they decided this some time ago. They had meetings in their boardroom. They had people yelling and throwing things around and throwing chairs and getting pissed. And they ultimately decided, bro, it's AR. AR is this hill that we're going to die on. We're going to die on the AR hill. And Microsoft has never wavered from this, man. They started off with HoloLens 1. They have HoloLens 2. And this has been their project. Now, the thing is, they've never gone consumer-oriented with the thing, which actually is absolutely brilliant. It was the right way to go. Look at Magic Leap. Magic Leap wasted like 4 years and who knows how much money focusing on a consumer marketplace for Magic Leap signed deals with the NBA. What was Magic Leap thinking, by the way? They thought that millions of people were going to own Magic Leap 1s and they're going to hook it up to DirecTV and have it linked to the NBA. And, Shaq can talk about little LeBron running around on his table. Well, that was just a bad idea, right? You want to go towards enterprise. Microsoft saw that from the beginning. They knew that from the beginning and they were focused on enterprise. They did well there. HoloLens 1, HoloLens 2, okay? And now they've signed a incredible contract, although there is tremendous controversy over this thing, but they signed an impressive contract with the U.S. Army that is worth $21.88 billion over the next 5 to 10 years. And this is supposedly for an order of up to a maximum of 120,000 units. a maximum. That's not even like a guesstimate or a minimum or anything. It's a maximum of 120,000 units, and the contract is worth nearly $22 billion over almost a 10-year period. Now, earlier they won that $480 million evaluation contract for 2,500 units, which they were going to use in the field and figure out, will this shit work for what they want to do with it? And they were pleased with it. Now, one of the things they found out was, the evaluation found out that the hardware was not rugged enough, and they had problems with the sensors at night. Now, since this time, the hardware has been significantly upgraded. It's been ruggedized, and it houses many more sensors. And the field of view, now this is the big one, the field of view has been significantly increased from 40 degrees by 30 degrees to 80 degrees by 40 degrees. However, I am skeptical that this is a fully legit 80 degrees wide. Okay, I'm skeptical on this, folks. I'm skeptical about this. Now, here's what I think is actually going to happen here when we're talking about, I don't think there's been some dramatic breakthrough in technology at Microsoft where they can now do 80 degrees by 40 degrees. I don't believe that. Here's what I do believe. I do believe there has been some improvements in their technology that has allowed their vertical FOV to increase both, on both sides here. So vertically, they've been able to expand it a little bit, okay? And then in this direction, I believe that they have been able to expand it to some degree, but I don't believe they've actually expanded it to 80 degrees. Now you might say, but Anthony, it's right there. It's written right. I mean, it's right on the screen. What are you talking about? Of course, no. Here's what I think. What I think is they might have some multiple things going on here, where in this expanded, widened area, in the corners, you'll have separate indicators, okay? Separate indicators for different whatever purposes that the military would want, like maybe it would have like wind direction, whatever. It would have information, like little readout informations in these corners. But what I don't believe is the actual AR magic. For example, when all the military people, like in this one picture here, where they're kind of looking at this like table here, and everybody's kind of looking at it, and they're looking at this incredible hologram of a UFO mothership that they've been tracking lately over the shores of Southern California. So the thing is, I think the magic, the AR magic, is actually going to still happen in a relative square within this overall area. But I think this 80 degrees extended area is going to have indicators in the corner. So I believe that's my gut instinct, is that, like, I don't think there's been a dramatic breakthrough. But if there has, that would be wonderful. If there's truly been a dramatic breakthrough and they've been able to get it that wide, and they're really doing AR magic for that entire 80 degree width like that, that would be super impressive. Not actually believing it, though. So that's my thoughts. Okay, now the other topic, of course, when it does come to this whole entire thing, is the complaints that have happened, like employees complaining. In fact, let me do a little Google search about it, because I think it was on The Verge or something like that. Microsoft employees complain HoloLens Battlefield. Okay, we won't be war profiteers. Okay, so this is NBC News. We did not sign up to develop weapons. No, I'm kind of like going. Okay, so anyway, let's take a look. NBCnews.com. This is NBCnews.com. We did not sign up to develop weapons. Microsoft workers protest $480 million HoloLens military deal. Now, this was the first deal. This was the deal for the evaluation that was for 25,000 units, which they found out it needed to be ruggedized, and more sensors needed to be added that would work in for nighttime capabilities. So yeah, there were these dozens, literally tens of Microsoft employees have signed a letter protesting the companies for blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so anyways, here's what they say. They say, we are a global coalition of about 10 different Microsoft employees, and we refuse to create technology for warfare and oppression. This goes against the man. The employees state in the letter, which is published on an internal message board, blah, blah, blah. We are alarmed that Microsoft is working to provide weapons technology to the U.S. military, helping our country's government increase lethality, using tools we built. We did not sign up to develop weapons, and we demand a say in how our work is used, the letter said. But no, we're not resigning anytime soon. We still expect our checks on time. So yeah, no, I mean, I get it. Like if I was working for Microsoft, and if I'm working on HoloLens, do I want to feel like, oh, I was responsible for like some peasant in Afghanistan being targeted better? Because, well, I mean, you could think both sides, right? Maybe if this works better, then maybe less innocent people can be casualties of war. It just gets into a thorny issue overall. And honestly, what's no, I'm not going to, I was going to go a little more political, but I'm not going to do it. But yeah, I mean, look, I understand it. Like, but I don't know that like soldiers are going to be actively running around and these things are going to be like Terminator, like providing like heat sinking signatures of other, like through buildings. I can see this guy and now I'm extra lethal. I'll be able to kill this guy so much better. I can see him. Like, I don't think these things are advanced enough for those kinds of techniques. And if it is, Northrop, freaking Lockheed Martin or somebody is going to create it, probably not Microsoft. But I get it. But $22 billion, bro. But here's one of the interesting things about this. So when this news came out, Microsoft stock didn't really explode very much off of this news, even though it's a $22 billion contract, and it is kind of validation for their efforts in AR. Microsoft is obviously pretty much the AR leader, right? Because do you think the military would go with a non-AR leader? They're going with the AR leader. But Microsoft stock didn't really pop very much. But you know what? There were other AR stocks or AR/VR stocks that did actually pop on this news a little bit. But yeah, that was interesting. So that is, of course, HoloLens 2 and Microsoft and the U.S. military. Okay, let's see. What other stories did I want to maybe touch on? I know I saw something else earlier. Yeah, so Snapchat is launching AR glasses dev kit this year. I knew there was another story that had something to do with VR and AR. Yeah, and so Spectacles 4 are going to make the jump from smart glasses to AR glasses. Of course, we also have Oculus. They're still, of course, in the AR game, and they've got that deal with Ray-Ban and Luxottica, where they're going to be having some glasses a little bit later this year. So AR does seem to be heating up just a little bit. It's still very far behind where we are in all other categories, though. So, it's still definitely years behind. Another thing that was kind of interesting in terms of the news is, of course, the VR headsets on Steam. They're record high, 3 months running. And let's see. So it says, the update says, a prior version of this article reported that monthly connected headsets on Steam had reached just over 3 million, or 2.4% of Steam users. The data was slightly altered to 2.3, so the estimate has changed to 2.924 million. So just shy of the 3 million milestone. So the interesting thing about this, folks, is you would think that there's like record numbers of people that are using headsets, they're playing PC VR games, and PC VR devs probably could not be any happier. Like, this is an incredible, awesome thing. Everybody's happy, smiles all around, right? You don't necessarily need to have your game on the Oculus Quest to make money. If we've got nearly 3 million people on Steam using PC VR headsets. The problem is, I know real, legitimate developers that have talked with me behind the scenes candidly about sales of VR games, and they say bullshit. They say that these numbers are bullshit, or that if these numbers are real, that these people are not active users. They're not actively using VR, because if they really had 2.9 something million active VR users, then some of these developers, the sales of their games would be way the F better, and they'd actually be able to make back their money on their investments. But a lot of these developers are telling me, I've talked to a number of developers that have told me that if they don't get their game, like their key game, whatever the particular game is, that if they don't get it on the official Oculus Quest store, they're toast. There's no way they're going to cover the entire cost of the game if they don't get on the official Oculus Quest store. The problem is, that doesn't seem to jive with this information that supposedly we have this record high number of people on Steam using. What are they doing with these headsets? Are they doing like what I've suggested, which is, ladies and gentlemen, use Viveport Infinity and don't buy anything. Just buy a subscription. Seriously though, if you are a brand new PC VR owner, and you don't have any PC VR games, you haven't like bought a whole stream of games yet, just get a Viveport Infinity subscription. Oh my God, it is so good. It's a cornucopia. There's so much stuff that you can just play and play and play. That's the way to do it. But yeah, I don't know. There's something fishy about these numbers. And I think there are a lot of people that do own VR headsets, and they might have their VR headsets still plugged in with USB and all that, but they're not actively using them. Something doesn't ring a bell here. I mean, something doesn't quite make sense with this whole thing, at least according to all the VR developers that I've talked to publicly behind the scenes that have talked about this. So there is that. This is actually monster news here. So, we're talking about kind of the health of VR. We're going to get into that, like we're going to get into like why people still hate VR. Godzilla vs. Kong, baby. I saw a little bit of that. Like my kids ordered Godzilla vs. Kong and they had it on like whatever device it was. And when you buy something like that, you usually get it for like a 24-hour period. And I was like, yeah, just show me all the special effects. And like, I was like, dude, King Kong is like 28 stories tall. Like, in what world is King Kong 28 stories tall? I'm sorry. Like, I remember, like, I've seen movies of King Kong where, like, if you are a regular, normal, human-sized man, you're hearing King Kong's way up there, but he's not a freaking skyscraper and shit. So that was kind of funny, but I guess they had to do it like that. Otherwise King Kong would get up to, like, maybe freaking Godzilla's kneecap, not even his kneecap, and it would be kind of silly, right? So it wouldn't really work. But yeah, so let's talk about this, folks. Bosworth, our favorite guy, Bosworth. Quest 2 has outsold all Oculus headsets combined. That is pretty effing impressive. That really is pretty impressive. That means if you were to add all the Oculus Rift CV1 headsets in existence that have been sold, I guess, all of the not the ones that are in a gigantic warehouse in freaking Zimbabwe. Okay, all the Oculus Go's that have ever sold, all of the original Oculus Quests that have ever sold, all of the Rift S's that have sold, and you put all of those into one gigantic pile, and Quest 2 has actually outperformed that. And so this has led a lot of people to wonder, where are we at here? Like, how many Oculus Quest 2s have actually sold? And maybe more importantly, exactly how big is the Oculus Quest family in general? So if you add all the Oculus Quest 1s and all the Oculus Quest 2s together, because that is basically an ecosystem, exactly how many Oculus Quests are we talking about here? And hold on a sec here. I want to change up this trailer. Let me grab something else. How about Pro Putt? A definite Quest type of game that people like. Yeah, so, I mean, the question is, what are we talking about here? How many individual Oculus Quest 2s have sold? How many Quest 1s have sold? What is the combined number? Are we at 10 million yet? Okay, so here's my thought process on this. My thought process is based on this information that Quest 2 has outsold all of those previous headsets combined. I personally believe that around 4.5 million Quest 2s have been sold worldwide. 4.5 million. Very close to that. Okay, very close to that in my opinion. Also, Quest 1, I believe about 1.25 million Quest 1s have been sold roughly, ballpark. So ballpark, we're talking, within range of 6 million headsets in the Oculus Quest family. 6 million combined headsets in the Oculus Quest family, which is actually putting it pretty much head-to-head with PlayStation VR, because we know a long time ago PlayStation VR was at 5 million. You figure within the time frame that we knew of the 5 million, it's probably added another million at this point in time, which means these babies are neck and neck. When you consider the Quest family and the PlayStation VR family neck and neck with probably about 6 million units. However, the Oculus Quest 6 million is significantly more important because this 6 million is probably significantly more active than the PlayStation VR 6 million. A lot of the PlayStation VR 6 million are not actively playing their PlayStation VRs on a daily basis, where the Quest owners are. It's a newer thing, it's more updated, it's just, it's a better experience overall. It does a lot of nice things very well, and so that's that. So yeah, so I think we're looking at about 4.5 million in Quest 2s and about 1.25 million Quest 1s, and a little under 6 million combined, and it's great news for VR in general. So that is definitely good news. All right, let's see. Were there any other little stories? Because I haven't done this in a minute, and I know there might have been some older things that I wanted to get into. Oh, Niantic. This is actually super interesting right here. Okay, so Pokemon Go developer. Oh, I got to switch. I'm in the wrong spot. Okay, Pokemon Go developer Niantic teases a see-through headset. Yeah, so what exactly is going on here? This guy, John Hank, excited to see the progress we're making to enable new kinds of devices that leverage our platform. And you see the Niantic logo right there on the side of it, and it definitely looks like some type of AR glasses, and they are heavily involved in AR investment, no question about it. And I forget, I looked into a lot of information on this story, and one of the issues here, Niantic, what a lot of people don't realize, do you know Niantic started as a Google, like a Google seed project. Like it started within Google. Like all the original Niantic people are basically former Google employees. This started as a thing that was built inside Google because people are wondering, okay, which AR headset is this exactly? Well, there's a couple of different options. This could be related. This could be related to Google internally. Yeah, it's funny. There's people out there, like I've seen people mention this, that like, oh yeah, Google's not interested in VR or AR. No, you couldn't be so You couldn't be more misinformed. Google is incredibly interested in AR and VR. People think just because Google tried Google Glass and that basically failed, and then they tried Daydream and that basically failed, that they're just like, oh, okay, we're cool. We're never going to mess with VR or AR anymore. No, they are heavily involved. They're still working on it in a major way. And it's possible that these could be related to that project. It's also possible that it could be this other company that is working on AR glasses, that actually Niantic has an investment in that company. There's a lot of money that I went down a rabbit hole on this one. Unfortunately, I don't have like all my notes on it. I think it's on my other computer and I forgot about that. Yeah, so I was just trying to see if there were some other stories I wanted to get to before we go into the main topic of today. But yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, the one thing I did want to get back to though, is this right here. This freaking gigantic pager that you're going to put on your wrist. That is effing ridiculous, ladies and gentlemen. So I talked about this on that MRTV episode. And Sebastian looked at me like I had lost my cotton picking mind. Okay, everybody looked at me like I was crazy, like Anthony, you're just wrong on this one. And my whole thought process here is no effing way. There's no effing way I'm gonna hold a freaking Motorola pager on my wrist just so I can control a VR game. Nah, man, that's not going to happen. Now, if this was like a comfortable thin wristband, maybe. But an effing pager on my wrist? There is no effing way. No chance, not happening. This is a swing and a miss. And it's not only the giant Motorola pager part that's right here. It's also this interlocking thing that this band is the exact opposite of comfort. This band looks like torture. Okay, wearing this on my wrist looks like effing torture. It looks hot. It looks sweaty. For what? So it can kind of read my brain signals. And guess what, folks? You can't just think, click on that box. You got to think, have my fingers click that box. For the thought has to be traveling to your hand. So you actually have to think the thought of clicking a certain button. You can't just think, click that. It's not just click that. It's actually, so like if you watch the video of the person talking about this, let's see if we can scroll through and get to the part. This lady's like, yeah, okay, right here. Like you have to do the clicking thing. You have to think in your head because you got to think, oh, I'm going to click that. You have to do that. Like, nah. This is and then when we see, let's see if I can get to the part where it shows the lady with the bow and arrow. Is this the part with the lady with the bow and arrow? Yeah, wearing two of them on her wrist. Yeah, nah, this is not going to happen, folks. It's not happening. I think that is a tragic fail. And a lot of people are like, Anthony, it's going to get so much smaller. Of course they're going to miniaturize it. Of course they're going to miniaturize it. This is not for prime time. It's going to get so much smaller. Really? Really? Because Magic Leap was unable to miniaturize whatever the hell they were hoping to miniaturize, and people put Google made a $500 million investment in Magic Leap thinking they were going to be able to miniaturize what they were trying to miniaturize, and they did not miniaturize what they were trying to miniaturize. And also, if you watch this video, there is some fine print at the bottom that says this is not the actual device. This is just a artist representation of what this is not the actual device. And so with them saying it's not the actual device, they could have actually made it look like a wristband and made it look way the heck more comfortable because they've got the disclaimer. This is not the actual device. It might look a lot different. It could vary. They could have done that. So they could have actually made it more of the miniaturized version they really want it to be. And they could have given you the harsh reality later. The fact that they're giving you part of this harsh reality in what doesn't even have to legally be the actual size, that shows me that this is not miniaturizing very much, folks. This is not going to miniaturize very much. It's ultimately going to be an effing pager on each hand if you really want to have dual hand control for this. And I'm sorry, bro, but I just, it's not going to happen. It's a mistake. But you win some, you lose some, right? Okay, so let's go to our next topic. And our next topic is a very interesting subject, in my opinion. It is this NeoGAF thread, which is why is Sony investing in VR? So yeah, this thread is actually quite a bit old. It's February 25th. Wait, oh, you know what? It must have been a bump to this thread. Because when were the controllers revealed? That wasn't way back on February 25th. Maybe it was the bump. Maybe it was a bump to this thread. But yeah, there were so many comments in this thread that, yeah, see, so this guy right here says, until it's effortless and not make you look like a dumb duck, it's not going to be doing shit. Not even going to bring up the price, LOL. So talking about VR games being a big part of the future. See, some of these people are like, no, VR is never going to happen. Just give it up. But there's some interesting points that are made in here. Unfortunately, let's see, IP, yeah. Yeah, so let me see here. Yeah, so this guy says, while increased immersion is a real thing, I think the real draw of VR is the fact that anyone can play it. You don't need to know how to work joysticks or a keyboard mouse to interact with games anymore. And then this guy says, well, you do need $800 or more of equipment, though, between the console and the hardware, assuming PSVR 2 comes out at the same price. So not anyone can play it. Not a PlayStation VR, at least. My mom can't play it. She can't play a Wii if that thing's still hooked up, but it'd take a lot to get a PSVR 2 into her home. Oh, she could play a Wii. Okay, Quest 2 brings a price point much closer to affordable, but that's not the device PlayStation is making here, so we can't play with those numbers. Yeah, so they're talking in here back and forth, but I wanted to get to some of the people that are talking just unbelievable amounts of shit, because I believe it's really interesting to analyze the shit talking. But I think it might have happened more recently in this thread, after the controllers were shown. Does anybody know what date the controllers were shown? Because I'm wondering when, because I saw some really interesting comments in this thread, but I think it was more recently. Hold on, I'm looking for something. Okay. Okay, so here's so people are going back and forth. So some guy's talking about it being a fad, and this guy responds to it being a fad. He says, but if anyone thinks it's a fad that's peaked, when the 7 to 10 year future, maybe sooner, hard to say, is weightless glasses with 1080p and a substantial improvement in game development, then they are just crazy. And this guy says, and in my opinion, anyone who thinks all VR needs is 4K, 8K, XK screens, and way more than 40 million production budgets in order to take over all of entertainment, I think they're crazy. But that's my opinion. Disagree with people and prove your point. The reality is, after 5 years of being a major product market, VR is on its way to being a niche market, not the future of entertainment. It'll have to ramp up and catch fire in a big way before it lays any claim to being a dominant force. Yeah, so damn it, I should have researched this earlier, because there was some really good breakdowns in different areas here. But let's see. Hold on a sec. Okay, so this guy says PSVR sold 5 million despite the hassle of wires. And this guy says a bunch of wires, shitty controllers, and an outdated machine to run it. Even PS4 Pro is severely underpowered to run anything remotely taxing in VR. It does the job, but PSVR 1 just screams barely VR and still sold millions at a high price. Of course Sony is doing PSVR 2. They'd be crazy not to, knowing just how many disadvantages the first iteration had. Yeah, but at the same time, we're talking about 5% penetration on the PlayStation 4 user base, which isn't really very good, to be super honest about it. Yeah, this guy makes an interesting point. So this one guy's saying, I wouldn't be so sure about not knowing how to work joysticks, a benefit of VR. I have witnessed the struggles of that very thing in my family. The only difference is, since VR is such a different concept, people are actually willing to put forth the effort to understand how to use it, with some instances of having to explain to someone how the controllers work over and over, since they don't use it very often. Basically, they don't lose interest, which they do when it comes to traditional gaming. Interest has to be there, otherwise it's going to face the same thing. Okay, so this guy's saying that there's no effort required with VR. You don't have to learn a new skill. Because he's saying that when you're in VR, you know, it's like a first-person thing and you're doing the action. But I don't know. I've been in a lot of VR games, and honestly, like, it can be confusing in VR games, like what button does what. And I feel like a lot of VR games do a really poor job of helping the user or communicating to the user how to work the game. Because the thing is, when you're in VR, you can look anywhere. So I can be looking way over there. I can be looking way over there. I can be looking down at here. And so a lot of VR games, like, something will pop up. But if you're not necessarily looking at it, you could be looking in the wrong direction. You could hit your button and then boom, that menu's gone and you have no effing idea how to do whatever it said. And that can happen in VR. This one guy that's saying there's no effort required with VR, where it's going to be this great thing because you're just doing what you're doing in real life. Well, I think that has a lot to do with hand tracking. Like, yeah, you will have a point when hand tracking is really huge and it's a real central part of the experience. Like, I've always talked about this, you know, when someone puts on a VR headset for the first time and bam, their hands are there and they're just doing things. You know, we know how to use our hands. So you don't have to learn anything to use your hands. But yeah, I can't really find the good stuff here. Let's see. Yeah, so this guy says, the irrelevant questions people keep answering about VR. What it is, what it does, how does it work, tethered or wireless, frame rate. The only question nobody answers that actually matters about VR, why should anyone own one? Answer that last question and VR will sell like heroin on any given San Francisco street corner. Well, I mean, the answer to that, why should anyone own one? Well, you should own one if you want to be transported to a freaking new world and a new place. You know, that's why you should own one. In fact, let me go back over here. Let me see if I can find a trailer for something. Because, yeah, cool. I got a trailer. So, guys, one of the things I mentioned the last time I was on Next Dimension podcast, and, you know, when we do our VR weeks and we talk about what we've been doing and stuff, I've mentioned a couple of times that I haven't really been playing any VR games. I've kind of been in this funk and haven't been doing anything. And the truth is, I've been even in more of a funk than you would imagine. Like, I'm in a life funk. Like, I really am. I'm in this weird place, man, where it's just a weird place. Like, I'm like in this situation where a lot of things are changing, a lot of things are being thrown away, and I'm just in a weird place. And so I just haven't been feeling good about anything, much less freaking video games. Video games is just one little aspect of it, but I've been in a dark place for a while. And the other day I thought, you know what? Somebody asked a question on some website about games that like make you feel better and stuff like that. And I mentionally thought of Zing, the Land Before Time. Or the no, wait. No, what is it? The Land Before Time. Zing the Land Beyond. Zing the Land Before Time. There's dinosaurs and freaking slee stacks and all kinds of shit. No, it's Zing the Land Beyond. And I thought about Zing, and I remembered to myself, I was like, you know what? When I'm in Zing, I just feel better. Like, this game can actually make you happy. So I'm answering this guy's question actually with this little rant about Zing. So I've been playing Zing recently. I got back into Zing. I started it over from scratch. I wanted to start it from the very beginning. So completely started it over and just been working my way through it. And it's a magical experience, man. It just feels so good to be in this world. The music is just upbeat and lifting. All the little messages that you read, it's kind of deep. It's almost like, look, if you need a little bit of freaking therapy and a little bit of rest and relaxation, you might want to chill in Zing for a minute. And that's basically what I've been doing. I've been playing some Zing and just chilling out. And dude, the nighttime scenes in this game are pretty amazing. It's very atmospheric. Like, you know how we have some different VR games where they're not even VR games. They're more like just little VR atmosphere places that you can just kind of chill out at and just relax at. And I kind of do this with Zing. Sometimes I'll get into some of these different little areas and I'll just be like, I'm just going to sit down. I'm going to sit down on this rug and just chill for a minute and just enjoy this beautiful world of Zing the Land Beyond. And see, there's going to be a day when this game, all White Lotus Interactive needs to do is just keep making better and better Zings for more and more advanced VR headsets and for more and more realism and larger field of views. Because eventually, like within the next 10 years, we should probably have a headset that has a 220 degree FOV. So essentially, human vision. Essentially, the entire human vision, periphery and everything. We're going to have that. Okay, and then that's eventually going to combine with the capability of delivering photorealistic visuals. And that's what VR has. VR is unstoppable. I don't know how you could possibly stop it. Just think of anything that you've ever witnessed where you were standing somewhere and you witnessed a sight of great beauty, an incredible sight. Have you ever been standing somewhere and you just saw the most beautiful sight before your eyes? Okay? If that has any effing value at all, then of course VR is a runaway train, because you're going to be able to do that. You're going to be able to have perfect sight for any visual eventually, at some point into the future. There's this place in Hawaii. Let me switch back over here. There's a place in Hawaii. It's called Hanauma Bay. Hanauma Bay. I don't know exactly how it's spelled. Okay. Hanauma Bay, Hawaii. Okay, I've been here, ladies and gentlemen. And I can tell you, this is one of the most beautiful places on planet Earth. I mean, I know they had some problems with it and they had to shut it down for a number of years because like too many greasy tourists were like screwing it all up. But Hanauma Bay in Hawaii is effing paradise. It's a little tiny paradise. I remember when I was there and I was swimming in these waters, I was snorkeling in these waters, and there's just so many incredible fish that are just swimming inches away from you and just incredibly colorful. But I've also just been standing on the beach there and just looking out at everything and being like, oh my God, this is just freaking awesome, right? This is just so incredible. And VR, there's going to be a point within the next 10 years where you literally should be able to visit places like this virtually and have just as good of an experience as somebody that is actually there without having to go through the trouble of traveling all the way there. Now, there will be some differences because you're not going to have the wind blowing in your hair at just the right time, a certain gust of wind, and your feet are not going to be stepping on hot white sands of the beach that have been warmed up. And the way the sunlight hits you in Hawaii, it's a different kind of a thing, the way the sunlight hits you. But still, we're going to get closer and closer to this. So for anybody to think that like that VR is just a waste of effing time and they don't understand, whoops, I'm in the wrong spot here. For anybody that doesn't understand like what is it about, like why would you want VR? Like that's the answer to the question right there. If you want to go to a freaking bomb ass place, let's see, this is not filling the window up all the way. I don't know what happened here. But yeah, oops, did not mean to do that. But yeah, there were some really good points in this thread. Unfortunately, I should have found them in advance and had each of them highlighted. But I just tried to wing this show, and this is what we call sponsored by Wingstop. Okay, so this guy says, I don't get the appeal of wearing a headset in your home, but if people enjoy it and Sony wants to make it, then go for it. You don't get the appeal of wearing a headset in your home. What? Like, that's not a very good explanation, man. Like, you should really elaborate on that. Like, what about it? Is it the weight of it? Like, what is it? Because, I mean, yeah, I mean, there is weight. The weight is a bit of an annoyance. Okay, so this guy says, I want them to make a standalone VR headset like the Quest 2 and have it be able to hook up to the PlayStation 5 similar to Quest 2 to PC setup. I think this is what they will do. Just not ready to announce it quite like this yet. That's what they should do. That's what they should have done. But no, I don't think they did that. I don't think they did that. And I don't think it's just a matter of them announcing that. I really wish, but no, I don't think so. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so this guy says, patently not true. It may end up with its own large market many years from now, but it will never fully replace conventional gaming. See, there was this one guy that was saying earlier in the thread, there was this one guy saying, look, you guys don't get it. In 15 years, flat gaming is going to be like retro gaming. No one's going to be flat gaming except for the handful of people that play retro games. There's people that still play their Dreamcast. There's people that still play Xbox 360. But like the vast majority of people out there will have moved on to VR. And this guy says, patently not true. It may end up with its own large market many years from now, but it will never fully replace conventional gaming. This guy says, as someone who loves VR, I fully agree with this. TV didn't kill movies. Tablets didn't kill computers. 3D games didn't kill 2D games. They're both going to be around. Okay, some of these analogies don't really make a ton of sense. Okay, first of all, tablets were not designed to kill computers. So that doesn't make no damn sense. 3D games did kill 2D games. For all effective, I mean, they really did. Now, does that mean that no one plays 2D games? No. That doesn't mean no one plays 2D games. And I know there's 2D games. There's a rare bird of a 2D game that is incredibly popular because everybody's streaming it online and it's the latest sensation. But 95% of what your average 18-year-old gamer plays is 3D games. So 3D games did kill 2D games. This guy says, okay, I agree with this one. We're talking about PlayStation VR 2 here, by the way, in this thread. They're asking why is Sony investing in VR? This guy says they should not release a new one until they got it wireless. Duh. And that was another thing that was in this thread. All throughout this thread, people, like in different parts of this thread, people were like, if it's not wireless, get the F out of here. Like what are you doing? One thin wire? Sorry. Wrong, doesn't work. If it's not wireless, get the F out of here. And I know that's harsh. But it's true. God damn it. It's an inconvenient truth, but it's true. Deal with it. Effing deal with it, man. Okay. Let me see if I can find some more interesting comments in here. Talking about HoloLens and shit. Let's go back to page 4. Okay, wait, let's go to page 3. because that looks familiar to me. So maybe I'm finally seeing some of the stuff I thought about. Okay. This guy says, okay, so here's a long breakdown. Let's just see what this guy's talking about. Okay, he says, I can only shake my head at some of these comments. There are times when tech is released before it's either good enough or featureful enough for the mass market to embrace it. Such tech items are also often hampered by a high price point early on. All sorts of appliances had to deal with this. TVs and the tech they've used had similar issues as well. The original Pioneer plasma displays weren't flying off the shelves in the beginning. GM's OnStar system also experienced similar issues. That being said, there's almost always a time window for the tech to penetrate the market to an acceptable level. Once consumers are aware of the product and can see the benefits, it's usually off to the races. Sony's original Walkman was like that. However, if the product is in a marketable state, with most of the issues worked out and has been on the market long enough for people to be aware of it and what it can provide and has been appropriately marketed and still hasn't taken off, the likelihood of it doing so after that is slim. 3D TVs were a lot like that. At this point, it's clear that VR hasn't taken off despite several improvements and tons of marketing. If it hasn't taken off by now, there's nothing to suggest it will anytime soon. There are reasons and applications that can give people a reason to get excited. It's just that those applications aren't necessarily related to gaming as it was intended. If VR headsets weren't flying off shelves after all those kiosks had people begging you to try it out, and if VR headsets weren't sold out everywhere immediately after Ready Player One was released, it ain't gonna. The people claiming that this time it's going to work, or it's going to be the future of gaming, might as well be throwing pennies into a wishing well because there's incredibly little evidence to suggest it. That's not to say that it can't become a niche market, though, supported by a rather small group of people who will throw a rather large portion of money into it. Heck, there's probably at least a handful of people walking around in Google glasses telling anyone who will listen about how awesome they are and hyping up Google's next iteration coming out soon. It being completely lost on them that the greater population isn't interested and therefore not even marketed to. Even Google knows that the only ones likely to buy it are those very people who are hyping it to everyone else. Okay, here's a guy that goes on a tangent and has an interesting take. Super negative. He's saying, look, if VR headsets didn't sell out everywhere immediately after Ready Player One released, it ain't gonna. That's one of his comments there. And the way that I would argue this comment is I would say, we're not at a baseline, man. We're not at a baseline. We are not at a technological baseline. We're not there yet. A technological baseline for VR, I really think it needs to be the ability to do this. You need to have the ability to be able to put on an effing VR headset and almost, except for the weight of the headset itself, and the fact that it's, putting pressure on your face and all of these things, it should be indistinguishable from real life practically in terms of the visual quality. And we're nowhere near that yet. So you cannot judge VR until that happens. Anytime you judge VR before that, you're going to get a false impression of the potential of VR. Now, if we ever get to the point where we do have this headset that someone can put on and they're like, shit, wait, is this real? Oh, okay. Real? When we get to the point where there's true photorealism and you're looking at like a meadow, or you're looking at Hanama Bay, or you're looking at the pyramids, or you're looking at Niagara Falls, and it's like, dude, I'm effing there. Once we get to that point, then VR must sell like hotcakes. And if it doesn't, I agree with you. But see, I believe that the power of sight is incredibly valuable. I believe that we really value the power of sight. We really like looking at nice things, okay? I can stand in front of a beautiful Ferrari somewhere, somebody parks a beautiful Ferrari. I can sit there and look at that thing for 5 minutes. Walk around it, look at it, be like, damn, that shit looks good. There's lots of things that I can just look at and appreciate. Artwork, beautiful scenery, all kinds of things, right? And we're going to get to that point where human vision is going to be co-opted. Human vision is going to be overloaded with visual information that is going to deliver exactly what you'd be getting outside of VR. And it's going to be freaking fantastic. I mean, going back to Zing the Land Beyond, in this game, like when it's nighttime and you look up at the stars and there's all the stars in the sky and there's the moon and occasionally you'll see a little shooting star every now and then. It's gorgeous. Like right there, you can see the moon and the stars and stuff. It looks really good. But there's still like screen door effect. There's still like a dithering. There's still like Mura. There's still all this extra crap. It still isn't quite there yet. But I can imagine playing something like Zing the Land Beyond 20 years from now, where when I am looking up at that starlit sky, it's going to trick my brain, man. I'm going to think that I'm literally outside looking up at a starlit sky. And I've asked myself, what is that going to require? Like, what is it going to take for them to deliver that? And it's going to take like multiple layers of like focal points. It's going to take a lot. It's not coming anytime in the next, it's not coming in the next 3 or 4 years. Like that's a good question. Actually, I want to ask this question to chat. Honestly, how long do you believe it will be before we can look at a nighttime sky in VR with the stars and the moon and clouds, and it just looks effing unbelievable? Like it looks just as good as the best starlit sky you've ever seen in real life, and it looks effing convincing. Like, how many years are we talking about? Right now, if like someone put a gun to my head and said, okay, how many years is this going to take? How many years is it going to take? Man, I'm going to say about 17 years. My guess would be about 17 years. I hope it happens sooner than that, but I'm guessing 17 years. Okay, and then also like sunlight. Sunlight. Is there going to be a time when I'm going to be able to look up at a beautiful scene, like daytime Hanama Bay and the sun? Is there ever going to be a point where I'm going to look at the sun and I'm actually going to feel like warmth? Because my brain has been tricked so much, because it looks so much like the sun and it looks so much like the sky and clouds and birds flying around. We've got a long way to go. Of course, people are working on light fields. In fact, wasn't there something recently going on with light fields? Wasn't light fields in the news? See Real VR light fields. I know I saw something about some company called See Real doing some light field thing recently. Okay, well, there's this, but no, this is more recently. See Real reveals its first light field AR and VR headset prototypes. Yeah, so light fields, brah, I mean, maybe that's what it's going to take. Maybe it's going to take actual light fields in your eyeballs to actually look up at the sky and think, holy shit, that really is a nighttime sky. I have a little quick story about the nighttime sky. Do you know that for the longest period of time, for like most of the first like 18 years I was alive, like the first like 22 years I was alive, I had never seen how many stars are really in the sky. I had never seen it in real life. Like, I've always lived in a city, there's always been light pollution. Stars in the sky without light pollution. Like, I had never experienced this, man. And so one time I went camping One time I had hardly ever gone camping, like maybe camping like once or twice in my life. But like even when I'd go camping, you would see more stars in the sky, but you wouldn't see every friggin' star in the sky. Okay, so check this out. One time I was about 22 years old and I went camping. It was Clear Lake, California. And it must have been a new moon. It must have been the night of a new moon. Okay, so there was no moon. There was no moon, right? New moon is like when there's no moon, I think. It's like the first night when there's no moon, or it appears like there's no moon, so it's like very dark. I was in Clear Lake, California, clearest night you could possibly imagine. New moon. I looked up at the sky and it was like, bam! It was like, holy shit! Like I'm in the middle of the friggin' Milky Way galaxy. Like this looks like some kind of like special effect or something. I couldn't believe what I saw up there. It was so incredible. And do you know that in all my times, all the years since, I've never been able to repeat this experience. I've never had a repeat experience. I've been to Bryce Canyon, Utah, but I didn't go on a new moon. See, that's the key. It's got to be a new moon. You got to go when because the problem is when the moon is big, the moon is light pollution. The moon kills off all the extra stars. You got to get rid of that damn moon so you can see what the hell is going on. And I've been to all kinds of different places, and I've always chased this experience of seeing these incredible lights, like just unbelievable, where it's like, you look at that sky, the sky that I saw where you just look up and you're like, holy F. Like there's no way you can think that we're the only living thing. Like, there's no effing way. You look up at there's no effing way. I don't know how anybody could think they're the only, like, Earth has the only life. It seems virtually impossible to me to believe that when you look at this. It was incredible. But yeah, so, I mean, a question is, that experience that I had as a 22-year-old for the first time ever, unbelievably, had never seen this. Imagine if VR can recreate that for anybody, anywhere, at any time. And it is absolutely convincing, unbelievably convincing. Eventually, there's going to be a day where that happens. And that's going to be effing incredible. And then how do you stop VR at that point? I don't think you can. Like it's silly. It's silly that anybody could possibly think VR would fail. The only way VR can fail is if there's something beyond VR, is if actual legit straight up holograms completely, like just where you wouldn't have to wear a headset. That's the only way VR can fail. Otherwise it's impossible. It's going to hijack your visual system. Now the audio, one thing I do wonder about though is audio. Like I do believe we're going to be able to hijack our visual system flawlessly. I believe we're going to be able to eventually get the entirety of our perceivable FOV, and we're going to be able to get the resolution and all of that. I believe that we're going to be able to achieve that visually. Audio, I don't know. I mean, I know there's been a lot of advances that have been made in audio to try to create more realistic 3D audio, but I believe that is way further away, probably. Than the video aspect of it. But just those two senses, just the audio visual senses, you're telling me that you couldn't just be standing somewhere and you're watching a freaking T-Rex battle a Stegosaurus or something, and it's happening right here. Like King Kong, the King Kong movie. Like imagine you're inside the King Kong movie. Like that's not going to be impossible. Like you're literally going to be able to be inside Kong Godzilla. Kong Godzilla images. You're going to be in, like, imagine being right up in there. Imagine standing on this battleship. I'm in the wrong spot here. Imagine standing on this battleship and looking up and seeing Kong 38 stories tall, battling Godzilla. And dude, they made Kong a friggin' Superman. Like, dude was a Superman. He was like Mike Tyson combined with Conor McGregor. Like he did everything perfect. He was grabbing things, throwing things, jumping nimbly from, like, I mean, they made Kong like a straight up Thor. He was Thor at one point. Spoilers, he was Thor. But yeah, but one day we're going to be able to just stand on that battleship and view it. It's just visuals. It's just visuals, man. Just audio and video. That's it. And even if there was no audio, it'd be freaking incredible to imagine like photorealistic happening all around you. And this is not that far away, man. People don't get it. But anyway, I'm ranting. All right, so that's pretty much it as far as... So Gaming Science Teacher says, it's already possible. Jurassic World Blue. No, it's not possible, Gaming Science Teacher. I disagree. It's not possible. Jurassic World Blue is cool, but none of the technology is there yet. Like, none of the technology that I was just talking about is there yet. Like, we don't have 220 degrees, so that's the first problem. Problem number one, there's no 220 degrees, which is honestly probably the most important problem. So we don't have 220 degrees. We don't have 4K. We don't have like 16K per eye. No, we're not there. And honestly, I think a lot of the stuff that we have right now, a lot of the things that we are showing people in VR is probably turning people off of VR. I guarantee you, if I show like some kind of next VR footage of a soccer game or like some kind of baseball game or a basketball game in VR, if I show that to somebody, they're going to look at that and think VR sucks. If I show some of the current VR porn to somebody, they're going to think VR sucks. People have this idea that when they put on a VR headset, they're going to the effing Matrix. Like, some people are scared to death to put on a VR headset because they think they really are. They think they're going to be so overwhelmed that they're not going to handle it and they're going to have a heart attack. And we're so far away from that. Like, we're nowhere near that. Like, we're not even close to that. We can see glimpses of it. That's why the VR nut jobs out there, like me and Gaming Science Teacher and everybody else up in here, we see enough information to know it's inevitable. We see it. We see the beginnings of it. We're aware of it. We see the beginnings of it. But I give demos to people all the time that are like, oh, that's okay. Oh yeah, it's kind of interesting, kind of cool. Makes me a little bit dizzy though, man. But see, eventually I'm going to give someone a headset and they're going to be like, holy fuck, they're going to be like, holy bleep, bleep, bleep. I'm going to the nearest Best Buy. See you later. Like, they're going to be like, holy shit. Okay, I got to go. I got to buy one of these right now. I got to show my wife. I got to show my kids. Like, it's eventually going to happen. So no worries there. All right. Well, anyways, I'm going to the wrong scenarios here, but yeah, that's pretty much going to go ahead and wrap it up for this show. I know it's kind of all over the place with this show. I haven't done a show in a long time. I will be doing shows again, even though VR game rankings is going the way of the dodo bird. It's a tragedy of massive proportions. Even though that is happening, I am not completely giving up on VR, and I will continue to do VR 365. I'm not going to be doing too many episodes, though, for a little while, but I'm going to figure out, how do I come back to VR 365? What do I do? Where should I go from here? What type of show should I do? How should I do it? I got a lot of things going on in my personal life that has taken away a lot of my time and won't allow me to have a lot of time to dedicate to things right now. So I'm trying to make my life simpler. And that's part of the thing with the VR game rankings thing. It's just, I want to simplify my life. I don't want to have so many clouds floating over me. So simplification is kind of my thought process. But yeah, that'll go ahead and do it for this here episode, which is episode 382 of VR 365 Live. And yeah, we'll see everybody soon at some point in time. All right, that's going to go ahead and do it. And I will see you guys later. Everybody have a good one. Take it easy.